The Zephyrian colony ship Eternal Dawn drifted helplessly through the void, its once proud hull now scarred by micrometeorite impacts and radiation burns. Inside, Captain Veltar pressed his scaled hands against the cold viewport, watching distant stars that offered no hope. Behind him, the bridge crew worked frantically at failing consoles, their movements growing more desperate with each passing hour. "Captain, the reactor core is at 12%, reported his engineer, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have maybe 6 hours before complete power failure." Veltar's 3 eyes closed in resignation. The Zephyrians had been fleeing their dying homeworld for 3 standard years, carrying the last 2 million members of their species in cryogenic sleep. They had trusted the Galactic Council's promise of sanctuary, believed the assurances that a new world awaited them in the Kepler sector. Instead, they found nothing but empty space and broken promises. The distress beacon had been broadcasting for weeks. Every major civilization in the galaxy would have received it by now. The proud Altarian Empire, the technologically advanced Vorthan Collective, even the mysterious Ethereal Confederacy. All possessed the capability to help, yet their communications arrays remained silent except for automated responses citing resource allocation concerns and territorial restrictions. Commander Zildi entered the bridge, her normally pristine uniform now wrinkled from endless shifts. "Captain, we're receiving another automated response from the Centauran Republic." "Let me guess," Veltar said bitterly. "They're very sorry for our situation, but current galactic tensions prevent direct intervention." "Essentially, yes." Zildi's voice carried the weight of their collective despair. "They suggest we contact the Humanitarian Aid Division, which will review our case within 60 to 90 standard days." Veltar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the dying ship. 60 days. We'll be frozen corpses drifting through space long before then. The truth was more sinister than bureaucratic indifference. The Zephyrians knew too much. Their homeworld had been destroyed not by natural stellar collapse as publicly claimed, but by an experimental weapon test conducted by a coalition of council members. The survivors were an embarrassment, a living reminder of galactic power's willingness to sacrifice entire species for technological advancement. In the medical bay, Dr. N.A.L. Resch moved between the few conscious crew members, administering the last of their medical supplies. The irony wasn't lost on him. His people had once been renowned throughout the galaxy as healers and scholars. Zephyrian medical technology had saved countless lives across dozens of worlds. Now, those same worlds watched them die without lifting a finger. Young Tekla, barely past his naming ceremony, approached the doctor with tears streaming down his face. "Dr. N.A.L. Resch, are we really going to die out here?" The old physician knelt beside the child, one of only 300 Zephyrians not in stasis. "We must have hope, little one. The universe is vast, and there are still those who remember kindness." But even as he spoke the words, N.A.L. Resch felt their hollow ring. The galaxy had shown its true face, and it was cold and calculating. The council races spoke of honor and justice while practicing expedience and self-interest. They would let the Zephyrians perish to protect their shameful secret. On the communication deck, Lieutenant Corvan continued sending distress calls into the void. His messages had evolved from formal requests for assistance to desperate pleas for basic humanitarian aid. The responses, when they came at all, were form letters generated by automated systems. No living being would even acknowledge their dying race. "This is Zephyrian vessel Eternal Dawn," he transmitted for the 1,000th time. "We are carrying 2 million refugees from the Zephyr system. Our power core is failing. Life support is critical. We request immediate assistance from any vessel capable of rendering aid." The response came, as always, silence punctuated occasionally by the electronic chirp of another automated denial. The Galactic Council had effectively sentenced them to death by indifference, banking on the vastness of space to hide their crime. As the ship's lights began to dim and the air recyclers struggled to maintain breathable atmosphere, Captain Veltar made a final log entry. To whoever finds this vessel, know that the Zephyrian people died not from cosmic accident, but from the calculated cruelty of those who claim to be our protectors. We trusted in galactic civilization and found only betrayal. He was about to end the recording when a new signal appeared on the long-range sensors. It was faint, almost lost in the cosmic background radiation, but it was there. A ship approaching fast from the outer system. For a moment, hope flickered in Veltar's chest before reality crushed it again. It was probably a council enforcement vessel, coming to ensure no witnesses survived. But as the signal grew stronger, something felt different about this ship's energy signature. It wasn't Altarian or Vorthan or any of the major powers. The technology seemed almost primitive by galactic standards, yet there was something purposeful about its approach. "Captain," Zildi called out, her voice carrying a note of confusion. "You need to see this." Commander Sarah Chun of the Earth vessel Defiant Hope studied the readings on her tactical display with growing alarm. The alien ship ahead of them was massive, easily 10 times the size of her heavy cruiser, but its energy signatures were all wrong. Life support was failing, reactor output was critically low, and the hull showed signs of severe system degradation. "Captain, we're receiving their distress transmission," reported Lieutenant Martinez from communications. "It's on multiple frequencies, automated repeat. They're asking for anyone to help them." Chun frowned as the translation software processed the alien language. The message was desperate, speaking of 2 million refugees and failing systems. But what caught her attention was the timestamp. This signal had been broadcasting for 3 weeks. 3 weeks? She said aloud. How was that possible? Any major power could have reached them in days from this sector. Her first officer, Commander Jackson, looked equally puzzled. "Ma'am, according to our star charts, this is well within Galactic Council space. The Altarian patrol routes pass right through this system. Then, why hasn't anyone helped them?" Chun turned to her science officer. "Dr. Reeves, what are you reading on that ship?" The elderly scientist looked up from his console, his face grave. "Captain, based on the biosignatures, there are approximately 2 million life forms aboard that vessel. Most appear to be in some kind of suspended animation, but their life support systems are failing. At current degradation rates, they have maybe 6 hours before total system collapse." The bridge fell silent. 6 hours to save 2 million lives, and, apparently, every advanced civilization in the galaxy had chosen to ignore them. Chun felt a familiar anger building in her chest, the same fury that had driven humanity to reject the Galactic Council's offer of junior membership 20 years ago. "Ma'am," Martinez spoke up hesitantly, "I'm detecting multiple automated responses in the ship's communication buffer. Denials from the Altarian Empire, the Vorthan Collective, the Centauran Republic. Everyone's refusing to help. Refusing." Jackson's voice carried disbelief. What possible reason could they have? Chun studied the data streaming across her screens. Humanity had learned much about galactic politics since their first contact. They discovered that the council races, for all their talk of honor and advancement, were often motivated by the same petty concerns that had plagued Earth's own history. But this level of callousness was staggering. "Orders, Captain?" asked her tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Torres. Chun didn't hesitate. "I'll stop. Prepare for emergency docking procedures. Dr. Patel, get your medical team ready for possible mass casualties. Engineering, prepare emergency power transfer protocols." "Captain," Jackson said quietly, "our orders are to maintain patrol of the outer territories. Command didn't authorize any rescue operations." "Then, it's a good thing Command is 47 light years away," Chun replied tersely. "We'll worry about explaining ourselves later. Right now, there are 2 million beings dying while the supposedly advanced galactic community watches." The Defiant Hope approached the massive alien vessel carefully. As they drew closer, the damage became more apparent. The ship was a generation vessel, designed for long-term space travel. Its hull bore the elegant curves and organic styling that marked it as non-human design, but The scarring from cosmic radiation and impacts told the story of a desperate journey. "Ma'am, they're responding to our approach," Martinez reported. "I'm getting what sounds like surprise." The main viewer flickered to life, showing the bridge of the alien ship. The being on screen was clearly not human. Scaled skin, 3 eyes arranged in a triangle, and a bearing that spoke of desperate hope mixed with disbelief. Behind him, other aliens worked at consoles that sparked and smoked. "Unknown vessel," the alien captain transmitted, his translated voice carrying exhaustion and wariness. "We are Zephyrian refugee from the destroyed world of Zephyr Prime. Our ship is failing, and we have limited time. If you are here to ensure our silence about certain events, please make it quick. Our people have suffered enough." Chun felt her blood run cold. Ensure their silence? What had these people seen that made them expect execution rather than rescue? "Zephyrian vessel," she replied. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth ship Defiant Hope. We received your distress call and are here to render assistance. We're going to help you." The alien captain's 3 eyes widened in apparent shock. "Earth ship? We're not familiar with your species. You're not part of the Galactic Council." "No, we're not," Chin said firmly. "And right now, I'm beginning to understand why." Over the next hour, the human crew worked frantically to establish emergency connections with the dying alien vessel. Chief Engineer Kowalski and his team rigged power transfer cables while Dr. Patel coordinated with the Zephyrian medical staff to assess the most critical needs. "Captain," Dr. Reeves called from his station, "I'm reading massive system failures throughout their ship. Life support, artificial gravity, even their stasis systems are beginning to fail. If we don't act fast, we're going to lose entire sections of their ship. How many can we evacuate if necessary?" Chen asked. "Our ship can handle maybe 1,000 in emergency conditions," Jackson replied. "But that leaves nearly 2 million still aboard their vessel." Chen stared at the tactical display, showing the 2 ships connected by emergency umbilicals. The Zephyrian vessel was easily the size of a small city, and they were asking her crew to somehow keep it functional long enough to reach safe harbor. It seemed impossible. "Captain," Martinez interrupted her thoughts, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Altarian Fourth Fleet. They're ordering us to withdraw immediately and report to their command vessel." "Are they now?" Chen's voice carried a dangerous edge. "And I suppose they're rushing to help the Zephyrians?" "No, ma'am. They're ordering the Zephyrians to power down and prepare for inspection." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Everyone knew what a council inspection meant for refugees with inconvenient knowledge. Chen found herself making a decision that would change everything. "Martinez, respond to the Altarian fleet. Tell them we're experiencing communication difficulties and request they repeat their transmission." "Mom, you heard me. Communication difficulties." Meanwhile, Kowalski, "How long to get their reactor stable?" The engineer's voice crackled over the comm. "Give me 4 hours, and I can jury-rig their systems to last another few weeks." "But, Captain, we'll need to stay connected the whole time." Chen smiled grimly. "Then we'd better get started." Admiral Thacklon of the Altarian Fourth Fleet paced the bridge of his dreadnought Sovereign's Will, his crystalline carapace reflecting the harsh light of the command displays. The human vessel had been experiencing communication difficulties for 3 hours now, and his patience was wearing thin. "Status report," he demanded from his communications officer. "Sir, the human ship continues to ignore our direct orders. They've established multiple connections with the Zephyrian vessel and appear to be conducting active repairs." Thacklon's mandibles clicked in irritation. Humans were supposed to be a minor species, barely worthy of notice. They'd rejected council membership decades ago, preferring their crude independence to the benefits of galactic civilization. Now they had the audacity to interfere with council business. "Are there other human vessels in the area?" "No, sir. Our long-range sensors detect only the single cruiser." "One ship," Thacklon mused. "They have one outdated vessel against my entire fleet, yet they dare to defy us." He turned to his tactical officer. "Charge weapons. Perhaps they need a more persuasive communication." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant Hope, Chief Kowalski was elbow-deep in alien technology, his tool belt floating in zero gravity as he worked to stabilize the Zephyrian reactor core. The engineering challenges were immense. The aliens used completely different energy systems, but the fundamental principles were universal. "Pass me that plasma coupling," he called to Petty Officer Rodriguez, who was learning to navigate the Zephyrian ship's organic-looking corridors. "And be careful with it. This whole section could go critical if we make a mistake." Nearby, Dr. Veltar watched the humans work with a mixture of amazement and confusion. These beings were clearly primitive compared to Council races. Their tools were crude, their technology decades behind Altarian standards. Yet they worked with an efficiency and determination that impressed him. "Your species," he said to Kowalski in heavily accented English. "You are not afraid of the Council fleets?" Kowalski looked up from his work, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Doc, where I come from, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Your people need help, so we help. It's that simple. But you risk war with powers far greater than your own." The human engineer shrugged. "Wouldn't be the first time humanity faced impossible odds. Usually works out okay in the end." Dr. Veltar stared at this strange being who spoke so casually about defying galactic superpowers. His people had been scholars and healers, preferring negotiation to confrontation. Perhaps that was why they now faced extinction, while these crude humans risked everything for strangers. On the bridge of the Defiant Hope, Captain Chin watched the tactical display with growing concern. 3 Altarian dreadnoughts had taken position around them, their weapons charged and targeting systems locked. Any one of those ships could destroy her vessel with ease. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres reported, "the Altarians are hailing us again. They're demanding we cease operations and withdraw immediately." "Response, ma'am?" asked Martinez. Shun considered her options. She could comply, abandon the Zephyrians to their fate, and return to human space. It would be the safe choice, the practical choice. But as she looked at the readings from the alien ship, 2 million lives hanging by a thread, she knew she couldn't live with that decision. Martinez opened a channel to the Altarian flagship. The main screen flickered to reveal Admiral Thacklon, his insectoid features betraying obvious annoyance. "Human Captain, you will cease your interference with Council business immediately. These refugees are under our jurisdiction." "Admiral," Chen replied evenly, "these people sent out a distress call 3 weeks ago. Where exactly has your jurisdiction been all this time?" Thacklon's mandibles clicked rapidly. "That is not your concern. The Zephyrian situation involves matters of galactic security that primitive species cannot understand." "Try me." The Altarian Admiral's compound eyes narrowed. "You test my patience, human. Withdraw now, or we will remove you by force." Chen glanced at her crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that she felt in her heart. "Admiral, I have 2 million civilians here whose life support is failing. Are you telling me that the great Altarian Empire, which claims to stand for order and civilization, is going to fire on a rescue operation?" "If necessary." The channel closed, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Chun felt the weight of the moment. With her next words, she might be starting a war between humanity and the Galactic Council. But some things were worth fighting for. "Torres, all hands to battle stations. Shields up. Martinez, give me a direct line to Earth Command." "Ma'am," Jackson said quietly. "Once we engage, there's no going back. This could escalate beyond anything we can imagine." "Then we'd better make sure we're on the right side of history," Chen replied. "Dr. Reeves, how long until Kowalski has their reactor stable?" "At least another hour, Captain." "Then we hold for 1 hour." She activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. We are currently rendering aid to a refugee vessel carrying 2 million civilians. The Galactic Council has ordered us to abandon these people to die. I want everyone to understand. We are choosing to stand between those who would commit genocide and those who need our protection. It's not going to be easy, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But it's the right thing to do." In the Zephyrian Medical Bay, Dr. Nael Resh worked alongside human medics to treat the most critical cases among the conscious crew. He had expected the humans to be primitive, perhaps even barbaric based on council propaganda about unenlightened species. Instead, he found them remarkably compassionate and surprisingly competent. Dr. Patel knelt beside a young Zephyrian whose system was failing from prolonged exposure to radiation. "The cellular damage is extensive," she told Aneo Resh, "but I think we can stabilize him if we combine your regenerative techniques with our synthetic plasma. Your people risk much for strangers," Aneo Resh observed as they worked together. Patel smiled. "My grandmother used to tell me that there are no strangers, only friends we haven't met yet." The old Zephyrian physician felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not just for survival, but for something better. These humans, these supposedly primitive beings, embodied ideals that the advanced council races had long since abandoned. Above them, the two ships remained connected while three dreadnoughts waited like predators, their weapons trained on the tiny human vessel that dared to stand between them and their prey. In the depths of space, a precedent was being set that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of courage, compassion, and the true meaning of civilization. The countdown continued. 43 minutes until the Zephyrian reactor would be stable enough for independent operation. 43 minutes to either save 2 million lives or start the war that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Admiral Thacklon had waited long enough. The human vessel continued its defiant repairs while his fleet maintained position, and his superiors were beginning to question his inability to handle a single primitive ship. The Zephyrian situation needed to be resolved before word spread to other refugee populations or, worse, to rival council factions. "Tactical, prepare a warning shot across the human vessel's bow," he commanded. "Perhaps they need a demonstration of our capabilities." "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving an emergency transmission from the outer system perimeter." "What now?" "Multiple contacts, sir. Human vessels dropping out of hyperspace." Thacklon's compound eyes widened as the tactical display updated. One human ship became 5, then 12, then 20. The contacts kept multiplying as more vessels emerged from hyperspace jumps. Cruisers, destroyers, even massive dreadnoughts that rivaled his own flagship in size. "How many?" he demanded. 43 vessels, and counting, sir. It's an entire human battle fleet." On the bridge of the Defiant Hope, Captain Shun allowed herself a small smile as her reinforcements took position around the Altarian fleet. She'd known the risks when she sent that emergency transmission to Earth Command, but Admiral Morrison had exceeded every expectation. "Ma'am," Martinez reported with barely concealed excitement, "Admiral Morrison is hailing us from the Indomitable Spirit." The main screen shifted to show Admiral Rebecca Morrison, a woman in her 60s whose stern expression had intimidated politicians and enemy commanders for decades. Behind her, the bridge of Earth's newest dreadnought buzzed with activity. "Captain Shun," Morrison said without preamble, "hell of a mess you've gotten yourself into." "Admiral, Morrison held up a hand. "Don't apologize, Captain." When your message reached Earth Command, President Hassan called an emergency session. Took them about 30 seconds to reach a unanimous decision. The United Earth government has officially declared the Zephyrian refugees under human protection. Shun felt her chest swell with pride. "Admiral, the Altarians are claiming jurisdiction. Let them claim whatever they want." Dr. Okafor briefed the captain. A new face appeared on screen, Dr. Amara Okafor, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "Captain Shun, we've been analyzing the Zephyrian distress transmissions. These people aren't just refugees, they're survivors of the Zephyr Prime incident." "Which was?" Shun asked, though she suspected she already knew. "An artificial stellar collapse caused by experimental weapons testing. The official council report claims it was a natural event, but the Zephyrians' own sensor logs tell a different story. Several council races used their homeworld as a testing ground for a new class of Starkiller weapons. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. The Zephyrians weren't being abandoned. They were being silenced. 2 million witnesses to a war crime that would shatter the Council's carefully maintained image of benevolent governance. Captain, Admiral Morrison continued, our xenologists estimate there are thousands of other refugee populations scattered throughout Council space, all survivors of natural disasters that were anything but natural. The Council has been using minor species as test subjects and disposing of the evidence. My God, Chen whispered. How long has this been going on? According to the data we've pieced together, at least 50 years. Possibly longer. On the Altarian flagship, Admiral Thacklon watched his tactical advantage evaporate. The human fleet had arranged itself in a perfect defensive formation, their weapons trained on his ships with what appeared to be sophisticated targeting systems. His intelligence reports had clearly underestimated human military capabilities. Sir, his tactical officer reported nervously, I'm detecting weapon signatures I don't recognize. Some kind of directed energy system that appears to be adapting to our shield frequencies. Impossible. Human technology is decades behind ours. Perhaps, sir, but their fleet composition suggests significant advancement since our last intelligence update. Thacklon studied the display more carefully. The humans had positioned their vessels with mathematical precision, creating overlapping fields of fire that would make any aggressive move by his fleet extremely costly. More disturbing was their apparent knowledge of Altarian tactics. They'd anticipated every standard fleet maneuver. Communications. Open a channel to the human admiral. Admiral Morrison's image appeared on his screen, her gray eyes as hard as vacuum-forged steel. Admiral Thacklon, I presume. Admiral Morrison, you are interfering with a lawful Council operation. Lawful? Morrison's voice carried a dangerous edge. We have access to the Zephyrian sensor logs, Admiral. We know what really happened to their homeworld. We know about the weapons tests, the cover-up, and the systematic elimination of witnesses. Thacklon felt his confidence crack. The humans weren't supposed to have that information. You have no jurisdiction in Council space. As of 2 hours ago, the United Earth government formally withdrew from all treaties recognizing Council authority. Morrison replied coldly. We're also invoking the universal rights of sapient beings, which supersedes any territorial claims when genocide is involved. You cannot protect everyone, Thacklon snarled. There are dozens of refugee populations throughout our space. Then, we'd better get started. The transmission ended, leaving Thacklon staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders, but what could he do? Attacking the human fleet would mean open war, and his superiors would crucify him for starting a conflict the Council wasn't prepared for. Meanwhile, Chief Kowalski's work was nearing completion. The Zephyrian reactor core hummed with renewed stability, its exotic matter containment fields holding steady for the first time in weeks. Around him, human and Zephyrian engineers worked side by side, sharing knowledge and techniques despite the vast differences in their technology. That should do it, Kowalski announced, wiping his hands on his coveralls. Your reactor is stable, life support is back to full capacity, and I've installed some backup systems that should keep you running for months. Dr. Veltar gripped the human's shoulder with surprising gentleness for such a large being. Chief Kowalski, your people have given us more than survival. You have given us hope. Don't mention it. Document. Besides, I had help. Kowalski gestured to the mixed teams of engineers. Turns out your people are pretty good with exotic matter physics. We learned as much from you as you did from us. On the Defiant Hope S bridge, Dr. Reeves looked up from his console with satisfaction. Captain, the Zephyrian vessel is showing green across all major systems. They're fully operational. Chen nodded, then activated the comm system. Admiral Morrison, the Zephyrian vessel is ready for independent operation. Understood, Captain. Zephyrian vessel. This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Fleet. On behalf of humanity, I formally offer you sanctuary in Earth-controlled space. We have suitable worlds available for colonization, and our xenobiologists believe we can provide everything your people need to rebuild. Captain Veltar's voice carried across the comm channel, thick with emotion. Admiral Morrison, we accept your offer with gratitude beyond words. But what are the others? The refugees still trapped throughout Council space. Morrison's smile was visible even over the transmission. Captain Veltar, I think it's time the galaxy learned what humanity really stands for. Fleet-wide communication, all vessels. Across 43 human warships, the same message was broadcast on all frequencies, aimed not just at the Altarian fleet, but at the entire galactic community. Admiral Morrison's voice carried clearly through space, her words destined to echo through history. To all civilizations receiving this transmission, the United Earth Government hereby declares that any sapient being seeking refuge from persecution, regardless of species or origin, will find sanctuary under human protection. We will not stand idle while genocide masquerades as policy. We will not allow the strong to prey upon the weak in the name of order. And we will not permit the galaxy's conscience to be bought and sold by those who mistake power for righteousness. The message ended, leaving space filled with the quiet hum of engines and the electric tension of a moment that would reshape galactic civilization. The age of human isolation was over, and the age of human intervention had begun. 6 months later, the planet-designated New Zephyr bustled with activity as 2 million refugees worked to build their new home. The world was everything the Galactic Council had promised, but never delivered. Rich in resources, capable of supporting Zephyrian physiology, and, most importantly, free from the shadow of those who had destroyed their original world. Dr. Nal Resh stood in his new medical facility, a gleaming complex that combined the best of human engineering with Zephyrian biotechnology. Through the transparent walls, he could see Zephyrian children playing with human visitors, their laughter a sound he'd feared would never again echo in the universe. Dr. Nal Resh came a familiar voice. He turned to see Dr. Patel approaching with a datapad and a warm smile. The latest health assessment results are in. Your people are adapting remarkably well to the new environment. Thanks in large part to human medical assistance, he replied. Your synthetic plasma treatments have completely eliminated the radiation sickness that plagued our children. Patel shook her head modestly. It was your people's regenerative techniques that made the real difference. We just provided some compatible base materials. Through the facility's communication system came an announcement that made both doctors pause. Attention, New Zephyr Colony. We are receiving incoming refugee vessels from the Kepler sector. Estimated arrival, 4 hours. Species identification, Saurian collective survivors. Dr. Nal Resh felt his heart swell with emotion. The Saurians were the 3rd refugee group this month to seek sanctuary in human space. Word was spreading throughout the galaxy that Earth kept its promises. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Admiral Morrison stood before the assembled Earth Defense Council, delivering her quarterly report on what the media had dubbed Operation Open Door. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, as of today, we have successfully evacuated and relocated 47 refugee populations totaling nearly 12 million beings. Our network of sanctuary worlds now spans 14 star systems, each carefully selected to meet the specific needs of our new residents. President Hassan leaned forward in his chair. What's the status of council retaliation? Surprisingly limited, Morrison admitted. Our intelligence suggests they're more concerned with maintaining their public image than escalating to open warfare. The revelation of their weapons testing program has caused significant internal strife among member races. Director Chun, recently promoted from her ship command to head of refugee operations, added, we're also seeing unprecedented cooperation between refugee populations. The combination of Zephyrian medical knowledge, Saurian engineering expertise, and Trilaxian agricultural techniques is revolutionizing our colonial development programs. And the military situation? Morrison's expression grew more serious. We've had 3 direct confrontations with council fleets attempting to intercept refugee vessels. In each case, our superior coordination and tactics forced them to withdraw without casualties on either side. However, intelligence suggests they're developing new strategies. What Admiral Morrison didn't mention was the secret she'd learned from classified Zephyrian records. The Council's weapons testing hadn't been random. They were preparing for something. The destruction of entire worlds was practice for a larger conflict, one that would determine the future balance of power in the galaxy. On the distant world of Altair Prime, Admiral Thacklon faced the Council of Hierarchs, his crystalline carapace dulled with shame. The massive chamber echoed with the voices of dozens of species, all demanding explanations for humanity's successful defiance of galactic order. "Admiral," spoke Hierarch Velthon, an ancient being whose energy form flickered with disapproval. "Your failure to contain the human interference has resulted in significant complications. 17 member worlds are now questioning the official reports of natural disasters affecting minor species. The humans were more prepared than our intelligence indicated," Thacklon replied carefully. "Their fleet coordination suggests military planning far in advance of our encounter." "Are you suggesting," interjected Hierarch Mordoke, his cybernetic implants whirring as he processed data, "that the humans knew of our operations beforehand?" "It's possible," honored Hierarch. Their response was too swift and too organized to be improvised. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. If humanity had been planning their intervention, it suggested intelligence capabilities the Council had greatly underestimated. "What of the Terran Declaration of Sanctuary?" asked another voice. "How many minor species have responded?" Thacklon's mandibles clicked nervously. "Our estimates suggest that nearly 40% of refugee populations throughout Council space are attempting to reach human territory. Our border fleets are overwhelmed trying to maintain containment." Hierarch Velthon's energy form pulsed with anger. "Then perhaps it is time to remind the humans of their place in the galactic order." But even as the Council planned their response, the galaxy was changing around them. On countless worlds, beings who had lived in fear began to hope. The human message of sanctuary spread through underground networks, carried by traders and refugees alike. For the first time in centuries, the Council faced organized resistance to their authority. Back on New Zephyr, Captain Chun, now Director Chun, stood beside Captain Veltar as they watched the newest refugees disembark from their transport ships. The Saurian survivors moved with reptilian grace, their scales shimmering in the planet's twin suns as they took their first steps on solid ground in months. "Director Chun," Veltar said quietly, "there is something my people must tell you. Something about why the Council was so desperate to silence us." Chun turned to face the Zephyrian, noting the serious expression on his alien features. "What is it, Captain?" "The weapon that destroyed our world. It was not just a test. Our scientists managed to decode fragments of Council communications before our evacuation. They are preparing for war against someone they call the Ancient Ones, beings from beyond our galaxy who are apparently returning." The words sent a chill through Chen's spine. "Returning from where? We don't know. But the Council believes these Ancient Ones represent an existential threat to all life in our galaxy. The weapons tests, the destruction of minor species worlds, it was all preparation for a war they believe is coming." Chen stared out at the refugees beginning their new lives, her mind racing with possibilities. If Veltar was right, then humanity had stumbled into something far larger than a simple refugee crisis. They had positioned themselves as protectors of the galaxy's weak, just as an ancient enemy prepared to return. "Captain," she said finally, "I think we need to have a very long conversation with Admiral Morrison." As the twin suns of New Zephyr set behind distant mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and gold, the refugees continued their work of building new lives. They had been left to perish by those who claimed to represent galactic civilization, but humanity had stepped in when no one else would. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the most profound strength comes not from advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but from the simple decision to do what's right, regardless of the cost. And in the vast darkness of space, where countless civilizations had learned to look away from suffering, one species had chosen to light a beacon of hope that would shine across the stars. The age of human ascendancy had begun not with conquest or domination, but with compassion. And perhaps when the ancient enemy finally revealed itself, that would make all the difference.